You know, if you've been watching the media lately, Joe Rogan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, I don't want to say this, but I think I kind of sort of am starting to agree with them, but only a little bit, and only according to what I'm seeing in the media, because there is this narrative that's going around recently that folks like that, and that Joe Rogan especially, has finally soured on Trump. We've seen the Gestapo comment, his sleeplessness, the overwhelming madness of the news cycle. ABC ran with it. Bloomberg ran with it. CNN ran a story on it. Liberal Twitter erupted. Hell, I bought into it. Joe Rogan, troubled, questioning, a conscience emerging from his protein powder fog. And I'm here to tell you that I was wrong. That we're all wrong, and not slightly wrong, magnificently, embarrassingly, fully wrong about Joe Rogan. And it's all thanks to a podcast called The No Rogan Experience, KNOW Rogan Experience. And this podcast exists specifically for the purpose of listening to Joe Rogan so you don't have to. This brave, possibly unhinged individual has spent over 170 hours actually listening to Joe Rogan. Every episode, every guest, every 3-hour spiral into elk meat, DMT, and whatever it is that Tucker Carlson has going on this week. 170 hours. I'm going to pray for you, sir. And this is shocking to me because the media is talking about Joe Rogan as if he's now gone left. But the conclusion from this podcast is that Joe Rogan, he criticizes individual moments while he tries to backpedal to defend the logic that produces those very moments. It's every single time. The Gestapo clip, it's a 3-second clip from a 3-hour interview with Rand Paul. 3 hours that some guy listened to and did a podcast about. In those other 2 hours and 57 minutes, Joe Rogan justified ICE's need for total anonymity. He warned that the real problem is that ICE might look like the bad guys. And he called Renee Good, whom ICE killed in Minneapolis, his words, seemingly crazy and out of her mind. And he called the protests against ICE in Minneapolis a color revolution organized by the Minnesota state government to distract everyone from the immigrant fraud going on. The full interview, if you listen to the whole thing like these guys did, is not anti-Trump. The full interview is pro-Trump with one awkward sentence clipped out and handed to the media, who accepted it with no further questions. Again, I'm guilty of it. Rogan didn't say ICE is like the Gestapo and then go home and cry about it. He said ICE is like the Gestapo, and then he spent 3 more hours explaining why ICE is basically fine, and anyone who disagrees is part of some deep state coordination operation. And the media ran the 3-second clip. Every time. Not like a golden retriever who's never once learned where the ball actually went, or that I'm hiding it in my hand the whole time. The mainstream media loves Rogan. Why? Because he says the crazy shit that they can't. And they want to ride his coattails right into the manosphere. And meanwhile, Rogan keeps platforming more crazy people. Last Friday, the day before Trump bombed Iran, RFK Jr., he was on Rogan's show. RFK Jr., the man who, his main documented qualification for Secretary of Health and Human Services is that he has a brain worm. And it tied to him, and he found him unsatisfying. He showed up to beg Rogan not to give up on Trump, to beg him to praise Republicans for their ideas, to kiss the ring so thoroughly that I felt secondhand embarrassment for everyone in the room there, including the cameras themselves. He was sucking up to Joe Rogan because he needs his support to keep MAGA alive. And Joe Rogan gave him the platform. And that right there is your troubled, just asking questions, bro, Joe Rogan. He's hosting a Trump retention rally on the world's largest podcast the week he was supposedly souring because of a 3-second clip. And the week before that, Rogan told actress Cheryl Hines, Larry David's wife from Curb Your Enthusiasm, she came on to discuss something completely different. But she ended up saying that 10 million immigrants were brought into our country to build a voter base and rig elections. Joe Rogan platforming her Just Asking Questions, Bro, with Cheryl Hines. We've done nothing to deserve this. I mean, this is Joe Rogan in 2026. He says some uncomfortable, weird thing once loudly in a clippable format, and then he spends the next 3 hours doing the actual work. It's the most effective MAGA cleanup operation in media, and it costs nothing because the media is always going to run the clip. Look, Joe Rogan's not troubled. He hasn't soured. He's not leaving. He's not going anywhere. He hasn't moved an inch. He's just as dumb and platforming as ever. Just asking questions, bro. He's just learned to say the unfortunate part first. 170 hours for somebody to see it clearly. And it was 45 seconds to see a 3-second clip get it completely wrong.
They called it closed, filed away, forgotten. But some truths don't stay buried. Time doesn't erase guilt. A reckoning is always just around the corner. A death in Arcadia. Justice has a long memory.